Hello, good morning, everyone. Woo, yes, I love that energy. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. You all feeling all right? Did everyone get breakfast? Awesome. So we know it's Saturday morning. Really appreciate you all being here. Welcome to Google. Welcome to Google LAX. This is one of our mini offices. Hello on live stream. Thank you for tuning in. We're excited to have you virtually as well. My name is Darea Green. You can call me Darea, like Darea Sunshine. I know it's corny, but you'll remember it. You will thank me later. A little bit about me. I am from Boston, Massachusetts, born and raised there. I graduated from Dartmouth College, class of 2012, where I studied sociology and theater, and pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I am a hip-hop dancer. Any dancers in the room? Awesome. You're really going to enjoy today, by the way. And I work at Google. So I've been at Google for about 3.5 years. I started out as an intern my junior year of college, and then I got converted full-time, where I did a rotational program, and then I found a home on the Computer Science Diversity and Media team. You're like, what the heck is that? So I will get to that in a second. The team is comprised of 3 of us. It's myself, Darea, Courtney McCarthy, who is here in spirit. Hi, Courtney, if you're watching on live stream. And we are led by Julianne Cromit, who also created the department for Google, which is super cool. We're all led by Mo Fong on the broader K-12 education outreach team. Mo's sitting there in the back. Hi, Mo. Shout out to the team watching. And the hierarchy keeps going and going, but we're all very dedicated to diversity. Our team strives to basically change the narrative of computer science as that pertains to girls and women of all backgrounds, as well as Black and Latino boys, other underrepresented minorities, members of the LGBTQ community, people with disabilities, et cetera, right? We really want to start to expand the scope of what it means to be diverse, right? That does not just mean your particular race or ethnicity. So how do we do that, right? So our team basically tries to pitch different coding storylines for shows. We've worked on shows such as Miles from Tomorrowland, Silicon Valley, and The Fosters. Has anyone watched those shows? Awesome, great, great. We also do events like this on the ground. We did an event like this last year called Cracking the Code with the Paley Center for Media. We go to different film festivals. We talk about unconscious bias. Has anyone heard of unconscious bias before? That's a whole other talk, but basically it's about just changing, your perceptions and really being open and thinking about different kinds of people when you're casting, hiring, working together, right? Our brains take shortcuts every day, and so we really just want to make sure that we're being conscious of how we're perceiving others. And then also, we just do a lot of panels and presentations in that regard. So our whole purpose, and we're firm believers, is that if you can see it, you can be it, right? When you think about computer science and you think about STEM and technology, you're immediately thinking, what you've seen on TV your whole lives, right? So right now, you typically think of a white male, older, with glasses, who has no life, no friends. He's totally antisocial. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, that's not the only person who does computer science, right? And that's okay. Obviously, we always have stereotypes for a reason, and we don't want to exclude those groups. But what we want to do is include, right? We want to make sure that you're seeing Black engineers, you're seeing Hispanic mathematicians, et cetera, right? Just keeping it more diverse. You're seeing women who are doing engineering, right? That's very, very important to us. So don't want to replace, we just want to include. So you're all here today to see that computer science and STEM touch a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds, with a lot of talent, right? Does anyone know what STEM stands for? Great, let's shout it out. What's the S? Science. T? Technology, engineering, beautiful. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. You all are super smart. Today, we're going to put the A in STEAM, right? Have you heard of STEAM? Okay, so when you think of computer science, technology, engineering, right, and then you think of dance, art, right, drawing, singing, right, the two are not mutually exclusive, right? They can come together, STEAM, right? That's very powerful. So I want you all to do something. I want you to close your eyes, and when you think of computer science, technology, and STEM, right, who are you picturing? Are you picturing people who look like you? Right? Start to picture that, right? Because you all can do that too. We're not saying that you have to do computer science, you don't have to do technology, you have to do engineering, but if you want to, you can, right? We want to make sure that you all are owners of your own destiny. I also want to give a special thanks to the LA Fund for their hard work in helping us put this event together. They're also very passionate about the things that we're talking about right now, making sure that this is all accessible to people of all different backgrounds and girls alike. Lily and Rhea are here, so thank you, ladies. Give you a quick run of the day because I want to get moving. We'll start with a panel discussion. They're lovely, sitting here to my left, featuring some esteemed audio engineers, producers, and artists in the music industry. They'll talk to you about their experiences, challenges they faced, how tech has played a huge part in their careers. Then I'll introduce the activity and break you up into groups. You'll travel to your rooms, or you'll stay here depending on the numbers. Don't worry, I will definitely go over that later. Today, just relax, ask a lot of questions, make new friends, take lots of pics, post on social media using the hashtags, right? I'll give you a chance to do that in just a second, and have fun. Just so that you know, out here to the back left corner, or your back right corner, that's where the restrooms are, so just go out that door, the restrooms are right there, just so you know. So right now, we're going to take a quick break on live stream for a stage change, and we'll get ready for a performance. Thank you all. My bad. Oh, sorry. Are you all posting pictures? Are we posting? Are we posting? Took selfies? You took a lot? Awesome. All right, are you ready? All right, I need your help because I'm very excited to introduce our performer this morning, okay? Now, as a performer myself, I know that you give what you get back from the audience, all right? So I need you all to be super excited. Don't be shy. Get up out of your seats, dance, clap, shout, take pictures, take video, do whatever you got to do. Super excited, okay? Y'all got me? All right, let's start now. Let's stand. All right. Are you ready for an artist that is new, fresh, and out of this world? Performing his new song, Queen Z. Look over here, y'all. Put your phones up and make some noise for Zach Zilla. 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 Keep it going. Zach Zilla.
is axilla. I'm looking for my queensy.
Queensy, check it out. Zachzilla. Smurf with you. You my Queensy.
All right, let's keep it going. Woo! Awesome. All right, all right. Do you all like that? Come on, that was awesome. Did you all like that? All right. Great, great, great. Right now, my amazing, amazing volunteer, Tavita, is going to help me set up some chairs. Thank you, Tavita. So, anyone have anything they want to, say? How y'all feeling? We're good? We sure? All right. That was pretty cool. I'll have Richie come up and talk to you a little bit more about that later. But just so you know, we definitely had Zachzilla here for a reason, just because he has so much tech involved with his performance, right? So that was a great example of how STEAM comes to life and how, technology and dance and singing all can come together. So I hope you all took that away. Amazing. So now it's time for our panel discussion. Are you all ready for that? Yeah, come on, y'all. Energy, energy. All right. Thank you. All right. So as we get set up here, we good? Great. Awesome. All right. Selfie break, y'all. Pull out the phones. Take some pictures. Take some pictures all day, all day. Using the hashtags. All right, right there. Great. So please welcome our panel. At first, I'm going to introduce our moderator, television drama writer and producer, who has helped shape the current landscape of prime time television through her work on hits such as Empire, Nashville, Revenge, and Justified, just to name a few. Please join me in welcoming the very beautiful and talented Wendy Calhoun.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Okay.
I'd also like to introduce producer, singer, musician, writer, master of all trades, Mr. Jim Beans.
What's up, everybody? How you doing?
I'd also like to introduce audio engineer, producer, DJ, amazing, amazing young guru.
Yay.
I'd also like to introduce to you mixing, recording engineer, and producer, Marcella Miss Lago Areca. Woo! Looking fabulous.
Hello, good morning or afternoon.
And last but certainly not least, dancer, choreographer, and TV personality, as well as visual director for Lady Gaga, Richie Jackson.
How's everyone doing today? You guys good?
All right, Andy, take it away.
First of all, Madam Queen, thank you for having us today. If you liked Zachzilla, I think you need to give a little shout to this man right here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
The brainchild of Richie Jackson. I think that's pretty exciting.
Ow, we've been working so long.
I'm just going to go down the line here and let everybody just explain to you what they do and who they've worked with. I'll start just real briefly with me because you heard my introduction. I'm actually a television writer and producer. My main tool every day is my laptop and my iPad and my phone, and sometimes I have them all three going at once. So I guess, you know. But technology, that's my tool. That's my handy box. That's what I use. The last show that I worked on, I was a co-executive producer and writer on a show called Empire. You've heard of it. Well, good, yeah. So there were lots of things that we did with technology on the show, but one of the most exciting things that we did was we were incorporating new compositions every week into our stories. And those new compositions came from one of the most talented men I've ever met. His name is Mr. Jim Beans, and he's right next to me. Jim. We're going to start with you. So what do you do and who have you worked with?
Well, my name is Jim Beans, as you said. Hi, everybody. I was called to do the music and the writing for the first season of Empire. Songs you may know, You're So Beautiful, What Is Love, Drip, Drop, Drip, Drippity, Drop. And a lot of other songs. It was on the first season of Empire. So I came in doing that, and it was a great experience.
Excellent. Now, before Empire, though, you were working with quite a number of artists. Who were some of those people?
Yes, I was actually called to do the work for Empire. I worked with Timbaland, and that started years ago. I would say around 2004, and we've worked with everybody from Diddy to goodness gracious, Danny D. Kane, Justin Timberlake, many people that you know. A lot of songs that you've heard on the radio, I've been the person behind it that's done a lot of writing and vocal production for those songs.
Excellent. Mr. Guru.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Is it afternoon yet? Okay. Good morning.
So tell us what you do on a daily basis and some of the people you've worked with.
Oh wow, I have like 10 jobs, guys. I'm sorry. Well, mainly I'm a musical engineer. That's the main thing that I do is I record and mix music. Some of the people I work with you may have heard of, like I don't know, Jay-Z, Beyonce.
I've heard of them.
I know you guys don't. You probably don't care about that age group, right? So I've worked with like A$AP Rocky and like.
Yeah.
You care more about that, right? J. Cole, people like that. But yeah, over the years I've sort of diversified what I do more than engineering. I DJ all over the world as well, and I also teach. I'm an artist in resident at USC, just because I feel like engineering is that important to sort of pass down to the next generation, and trying to figure out ways of making engineering and STEM really cool. So we have this thing that we do called Era of the Engineer, and it's all just to make what we do cool on a daily basis. So it's for you guys and for the next generation. That's my main job at this point.
Yeah, cool's a word I would definitely use to describe you. Next to you is another queen, and this is Queen Marcella. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good morning, guys. My name is Marcella Miss Lago Areca. I am a recording and mixing engineer based out of Miami, Florida. I have worked as well. I actually met Jim Beans back in 2004 working with Timberland. My career started working with an artist by the name of Missy Elliott. And, you know, some of the other artists that I've worked to this day has been beautiful country girl from Louisiana named Britney Spears, Madonna, Usher, Chris Brown. Quite a bit of a roster there. But yeah, that's me.
And Prince Richie.
Yes.
Please tell us a little bit about what's been going on with you. What do you do on a daily basis, and who do you work with?
So again, my name is Richie Jackson, and on a daily basis, I'm pretty much in a studio or a theater or a rehearsal place of some kind that someone has contracted because they decided they want to rehearse in this particular venue. I've worked with Lady Gaga. If you've ever seen all of her videos, or if you've ever seen any of her stage performances, if you guys know who that is, she's fantastical. I've also worked with Katy Perry, Meghan Trainor, Nick Jonas, and I could go on. And what I do is, on top of the choreography and putting together movement that basically accentuates each artist, I also put together entire tours and the shows and the aesthetic. And with tech, especially with Gaga, oh my gosh, she would love to meet all you guys to inspire you because we are teched out. So that's what I do, work with artists.
Nice. I'm going to throw this question to the whole panel, but I think I'm going to direct it first towards you, Mr. Guru.
No problem.
Okay, so what do you think the future of music looks like, and how is technology involved with that?
The future of music is beautiful. You guys will hear a lot of the complaints of people of my generation of, oh, everything's changing and what's wrong with the music business, but it's a beautiful, beautiful time. It's the most powerful time for artists. Artists are empowered to do whatever they want to do on whatever scale. So the future of music, I say, is more independent, more control, and it's more opportunities for people like ourselves in this room. I mean, there's no guise to it anymore. The future of music is streaming, and it's a beautiful thing because we haven't totally figured this out yet. So as engineers, our minds should be bubbling like, oh, there's a problem, and that's whenever there's a problem is when engineers have a job. You know, we have to figure out these things and figure out how are we going to distribute our music to the world. But it's a beautiful time. So just, you know, from the delivery of music, that's going to be a big difference from what's going on before. And then I think visually, when we start to combine our tech with the music, the way that we can sort of have 3D videos and, you know, just some of the amazing things that I'm seeing will allow for a new form of creativity. So it's sort of like that you build it, they will come thing. So whatever your mind can come up with, then creative artists can then take your tech and see how they can apply that to different shows that they have. So I would say that the future is whatever the dreams are of the people in this room.
Right, so we're only really limited by our imagination, huh, with what we can do. What do you think is the sort of revolution that's happening right now? What do you think, Richie? Is there some sort of tech revolution that's impacting arts?
Well, a piece of the revolution, in my opinion, is someone like a Zachzilla, a music artist where we'll incorporate technology and music, and it's going to allow us as humans. I say that because technology, I always think robots. It's going to allow us to compete with apps, with robots, with the way technology is being perceived and how it's being put out. What we'll do is we'll get a new interface on, for me visually, on artists, on performances. How do we keep it to compete even with our phones now? How does an artist stay competitive with any app that's on your phone right now? So the revolution to me is what young Guru is saying, is the combination of tech and music combining and still being put out, even though it's in its human form, is how I see it.
Wow, what do you think, Jim? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would say a lot of this comes down to originality and, you know, also imagination. Like, as far as you can go on your mind, as far as developing different sounds and ideas you can put into any art form that you have is what's going to make, you know, music and just life in general change and morph into a better place.
Gotcha. And Marcella, I mean, you definitely, part of what you do in an everyday basis is taking technology and using it as a tool to create art. What do you think about the future? Where is it headed? Where should we be brainstorming?
Well, we should be brainstorming. I mean, every time I think about the future of music, I think about Tony Stark and how, like, you know how he has that screen that just kind of, I think, like, eventually it's just going to get to this place where, you know, I mean, we will always still have a job because we obviously have to take, you know, control some of these computers, but obviously, like, you know, like, I think some people are afraid of where it's going, but I'm not personally afraid because, like I said, there's an important role that we as humans have, you know, that we have to actually create these computers, you know? So there's definitely, it's big, you know? It's very big.
Right. Well, you know, it's interesting. Every day we are bombarded with images, right? Images on, whether it's on our laptop, on our iPad, on our phone, on our television. And those images are people doing their day-to-day lives, and they impact us. Question for the panel, and I'm gonna start with an answer because I have one. Do you think it's important to see more diverse characters on screen in order to get young people interested in careers like we have? I think it's absolutely imperative. I know that for me, I never would have thought that I could go on to be a filmmaker had I not seen Spike Lee, right? So I saw Spike Lee and I thought, my gosh, you know, he's black. I'm black. He's allowed to be on screen and behind the screen. He's allowed to direct and tell his story for an audience that will understand and appreciate it. And it made a huge difference in my life. And seeing that a filmmaker could look like me really changed what I thought was possible. What do you think about this subject? Anybody have a thought?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Well, for me, I think it's very important that, you know, it's displayed on, let me just say, like, when it came to me, I'm a female engineer in the business. In the engineering world, it's a very small percentage of us women that really work in that field. And it was never, like, I remember being in high school, I never was given the, you know, oh, why don't you go and do this for a living? I never even knew about this path until I was 19 years old and had already graduated high school. Had I had the information like you guys are getting today and, you know, how you're getting in school on different, you know, career choices and paths that you can take, I'm sure I probably would have been a little bit more educated and prepared. But I literally found out about, wow, I can be an engineer. I never knew that because in my mind, in the studio, it was just the artist and the producer, and I thought the producer kind of ran everything. I didn't realize there was a third person in the room, and that third person being an engineer. So, I think it's very important, especially today, that, and that's why I love coming out to speak to you guys and do events like this, because it's very important that we educate you guys on not just this path, but on any path that you want to do. If you want to go out there and referee NFL football game, ladies, then you can do that. Trust me, you can do it. You just have to believe in yourself. So it's very important.
Anyone else have thoughts?
Well, I deal with this on a daily basis, and again, that's what sort of the era of the engineer was about, was making this cool. When I was a kid, my mother and my father just gave me a bravado about life, about anything that I did. I could do whatever I wanted to do. So I never considered I considered myself a cool nerd, if you wanted to put it that way. And I was very upfront about the things that I loved. So, at the same time that I was this really cool guy in my neighborhood, it was because of technology. My turntables at that time, which was the technology I was using, gave me a position in my neighborhood. So, I was always standing behind those turntables playing music. So when everybody else was sort of figuring out their place in the room at the party, and you don't know, like, when to go over and ask the girl to dance, like, I never had to deal with that situation because I was always behind the turntable. So it was the thing of technology was the thing that allowed me to have a place and allowed me to have an identity. And I was becoming very popular in my neighborhood by fixing people's VHS players. I know I'm dating myself. You guys have no idea. So before DVDs, we had these things called VHS tapes. And they would break, and you would have to fix them. So I got popular for fixing people's tapes. But what you'll find out is that people need people like us. They need people that understand technology to show them how to work things, to show them how to fix things. And it can become a very lucrative thing if you figure out what people need. That thing of what I'm saying is whenever there's a problem, that you should perk up as some sort of engineer. And I think that's where the real talent lies, and that's where the real secret lies, is for this generation, figuring out the human interaction with the computer. We've sort of come through this time period of creating computers, creating personal computing. Now we've given those computers sensors, right? Where all of our phones are feeding, sound and sight to this massive thing that we're calling the internet. But now we're trying to figure out human interaction, right? When, if we just look at music and the way that we interact with it, we used to have all these buttons and knobs to push, and now we don't do that anymore. Now we're looking at a computer screen. And a lot of people that make music are like, well, I like to touch things, and I like to turn knobs, and I like to push faders instead of like pushing this mouse. So figure out some way for me to interact with my computer where it feels like, a human interaction. Those are just examples of some of the things that I see where we're going, and and where this generation can sort of figure out those problems.
Right. Well, I think it's really important that it's important what's happening right now, right? You're all seeing people who are incredibly creative, who work behind the scenes of a lot of your favorite artists, and who are just as much of an artistic generator as they are. You see us. You see that we exist. And so you know that these jobs exist. And so that's something, as a person that makes broadcast television or digital television or cable television, finding people that look like us, that do what we do, and putting them on screen can not only remind you that this exists and it's a path that you could choose, but it reminds your little brother and your little sister that they can take their tech age minds, because they've been trained right from 2 now, right? 1 year old, how to use an iPad, that they can that is the future for them. That is going to be a tool in their life and something that they can dedicate themselves to creatively.
Wait, Wendy, can I just add one more thing?
Absolutely.
And also, the flip side of it is, if you do not see someone that you can relate to, it's okay to take that risk, to take that chance. Sometimes it's okay to be the first one that tried something or to be vulnerable. For instance, when I was in high school, band was not in. If you were in band, it was like, womp, womp, womp. But I was like, I don't care. I love music. I'm going to play the drums. I'm going to make drums cool. You know what I mean? And then from there, in my day, I was taught heavily to go to college. And so I listened to that. And I did go to college, and I wanted to be a lawyer. You couldn't tell me nothing. Anybody committed a crime, they were going away. But one day I happened to see a friend of mine who was dancing with Aaliyah on a music video. And at the time, I was in Alabama. And I saw him on that video, and I left college that week. I called my mom and was like, Mom, it's a wrap. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I just saw so-and-so dancing. I gotta go. So I took a chance by dropping my full scholarship. I'm not recommending that to everybody, but I am saying that if you feel something and you're passionate, and even if you don't identify with what it is, if that's something that you want to do, take the chance. Sometimes the road less travels by gives you a bigger ending. You can get the greatest results just heading over that way and not that way.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Very well said.
I'm really glad you brought that up because that is so true. To be an innovator, to be first is scary. And it actually leads me to the next question, which is to be first means you're going to face some setbacks, right? You're going to face setbacks that you didn't know were coming because you're the first person there. You're the first person on that road. You don't know what's going to be the obstacle in the way. What are some setbacks that people have faced on this panel, and how did you overcome them?
No, it won't work. No one's ever done this before. If you hear that, let that inspire you even more. If they tell you no, let them tell you no. They're gonna keep saying no. If they tell you it'll never work harder to make sure that it works. If they say no one will ever buy into it, work that much harder to make sure that you know what, one day you're gonna be in that crowd, or you're gonna be supporting me, or you're gonna be buying my product, all because they said no. Those no's are fuel, okay? Just know that.
I mean, it's for me, that is pretty much my story of trying to become something that I did not see out there. When I was trying to become a musical engineer, there were no young black engineers. There was one guy that I looked towards, this guy named Doro, who was the only person that was doing major sessions. And my whole goal was to break up this thing called the Allied Pool. Like one of my mentors, this guy named Tony Maserati, great engineer, his group was like dominating New York City, and I was like, how come I can't get any mixes? I was recording stuff, but I couldn't get mixes. So my big thing was just to put my foot forward and do the best work. I think when you really train yourself and know your craft and you have that confidence that I know what I'm doing, any setback is just that. It's a setback. It doesn't become a failure until you quit. So, you know, if you keep going and keep going and keep pushing, and I've been through every scenario from having children early, having to move from a small town to New York City to, you know, get your dream. Anything that you can think of that people think of as some sort of setback, I've tried to overcome those. So as much as I could tell you, oh yeah, you know, you need to know this, you need to know that, that's great. Your determination on what you do with that is what is really going to get you further. What you know, this is an old axiom, but it really matters. It's what you know gets you in the door. How hard you work will keep you there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm going to just direct, not to exclude you gentlemen out there, but for me, you know, I'm a woman up here.
We need that.
And,
ladies
you know, ladies, I will say there were plenty of setbacks as a woman getting into this particular career, but I'm sure in many careers, you know, when you know, women were very, men are scared of us, let's just say. You know, when we become, you know, successful and you know, women get in positions of power, it can be really discouraging for men, and they will try to do everything to sideline you or you know, take you off your path and journey. And I think it's very important for all of you ladies to understand that if you have a passion and a dream in any career choice that you want to do, know that there will be a lot of setbacks, know that there will be discouragement, but just understand that it is, like, as long as you believe in yourself, that's all, you know, that's the team that you need. Is the person that you look at every day in the mirror is the person that you answer to. And that's it, you know. But, you know, definitely I had everything from people telling me, are you sure you want to do this? I mean, like, there's like, you know, there's no women doing this. Like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, like, I don't, you know, it's no thing, because for me it was in my heart. I knew I always wanted to do something in music. I didn't play instruments. I don't sing. Like, I just knew I wanted to be a part of the creative process.
She does not sing, trust me.
Wow. You know,
well, yes, Jim can attest.
You're absolutely right, because, I mean, you're feeling me up here. You know, Females in the audience, I'm going to just lay it down for you. You're going to be working against a different set of rules. It's just the truth. One of those sets of rules is you're going to be judged by your appearance sometimes, as men are not judged by their appearance. You're gonna come on strong because you have strong ideas, and you may be labeled some words I can't even say up here because you're a strong woman. You're going to come up against people who are going to judge you for the fact that you have a husband or children, who are going to say that somehow you can't bring it all because you have to focus on your family. They're wrong. I have 2 daughters. I still bring it every day. My husband is my partner. The most important thing for you to remember is to, yes, you're going to be a pioneer and you're going to face setbacks, but do not ever let your gender be an excuse for you not moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, now that we've had that little session.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
Okay, now that we've talked about that side, there's another side to it, and where you should own your uniqueness. Right? Because then you become something special, and you stick out above the crowd. Once people get past the appearance, once people start to trust you and they understand that you know what you're doing, there's a uniqueness that you bring to whatever workplace that you're in that no one else can bring. It's a very cool thing that happens once you get over that hump. Or if you're scared to be yourself, like I would go to Michio Kaku talks, and people would look at me, and I'd be dressed like this, and they're like, who is this young black hip-hop kid at a physics conference? Why is he in here? But then once they know that you kind of know what you're talking about, and I start to have discussions with you on the side about the Higgs boson, and it's like, oh, okay, there was this black guy at the Michio thing, and he really, really struck me, and you start to stick out. So understand that you should sort of hold on to your uniqueness and put it in the forefront, because it allows you to be who you are. You may be different, but that's not always just the setback thing. Look at it as something that says, I have something that everyone else doesn't have.
Nice. I want to find out in the room, how many people in this room are actually thinking about becoming an engineer someday? Ooh, look at this.
Great.
Yes.
Beautiful.
That's incredible. Wow, how many people are thinking about being a songwriter? Nice. Performer?
Better.
Anybody want to perform? Okay. How about just a tech innovator? Somebody that wants to create programs or, the kind of things this is great.
I need you.
Well, I want to know, do you have any advice for the people in the room here? We've got a lot of people interested in being engineers. What would you say, what would you do if you were in their shoes right now and they wanted to be you one day?
Wow, I don't want to dominate the panel. I want to let you guys. But there's so many things I would tell you guys. Number one is to value your resources, right? When I was your age, in order for me to get information, I had to go to the library. My library card had to be up to date. I had to understand the Dewey Decimal System, research stuff. You guys have no idea what the Dewey
What is a
Decimal
library?
What is a library?
Okay, so before the internet, that's the way you looked up stuff in a library.
Yep.
And then you would do all this work, and you'd go and you'd be like, oh man, somebody has the book out, Just value the fact that any question that you can ask is answered on Google. And then number two is to sort of focus on the things that you see people need and go the way that everyone else isn't going. So as much as we love tech, as much as we love to come up with the new app and all of that type of stuff, there's still physical problems in the world, right? We're getting to a point where infrastructure in this country is getting really bad, and we're going to have to rebuild bridges, and we're going to have to. I am of this mind state of, when you say the word engineering to me, it encompasses all engineering. So there's ways of combining our computer technology, but let's not forget the physical world that we live in still needs engineers. Right? And you guys should understand that. So there's so many opportunities to combine those two, and you don't have to necessarily just focus on doing a computer program.
I think
I'd like to speak to the.
Yeah, I'd love for you to, because I want to ask you, we got producers in the house.
Yeah.
What inspired you to become a producer, and what does it mean to be a producer, a music producer?
Well, for me, music production, I started off being, kind of reminded back, I actually started off playing violin when I was in 4th grade.
Word, Jim. Okay.
No, don't clap. I did not want to play a violin. I actually went in there for a trumpet. That's the crazy part. And it didn't have any more left.
It was a setback, but you were good. You were fine.
Setback, right. So I said, oh my goodness, well, you don't have a trumpet. What do you have? They said, we have a violin. I'm like, oh God, I can't walk home with a violin every day. I'm going to get teased. So they said, well, look, either you're going to take this violin and be able to take field trips or just stay in the class all day. I said, okay, I'll take it. So I took it and I learned that violin. It was hard. It's really, really hard, especially me being, this was years ago, so I was, young black kid walking around with a violin. But as time went on, I would have never thought that I would have taken a musical approach, all because I started with a violin. I started off doing vocal production, and within that vocal production, I actually used the instrument the voice as an instrument. So I'm saying that to say, when it comes down to the musicians and the people who are songwriters, one thing that I notice about music these days is that everything is starting to sound so similar on the radio, and there's no originality.
Oh my gosh. Yes, Jim, thank you. You said it.
And I want to say it's very important for you to really, it's cool to, go with a trend every now and then. If one person wears a white T-shirt, everybody wants to wear a white T-shirt. But it really does start to make the world boring to see the same thing over and over again. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and start something new. Try to make something that's unique to you. Because what happens is that you'll stick out for being the person to do it. Even when I think about... Oh,
yes,
that was funny?
Jimmy, yes.
Oh, okay,
my
I'm preaching?
Gosh.
All right.
Well, talk us through just a quick second. You produce songs for Empire. I know this. So what goes into producing a song? How do you do that?
Well, as far as what was amazing about the first season of Empire when we first started was completely, this was complete test. Everything was completely on the fly. But the one thing that Timbaland told me, he said to make sure that none of the songs sounded like anything you hear on radio. And at first I was like, really? Are you sure? Blah, blah, blah. But what ended up happening was because those songs didn't sonically sound the same as what everybody was hearing, in the beginning, it was a little bit hard for people to get. They were like, what? I don't get it. But it started to stick out, and it made those songs really unique and have their own fingerprint for the whole show. And that's why I'm saying that to say, like, with all you musicians and songwriters out there, it's very hard to kind of do something that's, been done so long or whatever, but it is possible to think of different ways to make your music special. Even like Zachzilla, that was an amazing performance. You all seen it. Don't be afraid to think and do something smart and special with your performance and with your music, sounds.
Can I add to that? Okay, first of all, everything I've ever said in life for the past, 10 years, thank you, Jim. Oh my gosh. But on top of that, what I would want to say is also trust your instincts. Whether you want to be a performer, songwriter, producer, or who knows what you might invent, trust your instincts, go with them. If it's saying the color's red, go with red. If it's saying it needs to be like boo, doo, 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 then take that. Also, allow yourself to fail or have a setback. It's okay, because a lot of the things that have happened career-wise for me, even a dance move or a certain look, happened from a mistake. Sometimes a mistake now leads you down another path. What I'm saying is take chances in keeping the feeling and the organicness, even though you might be tech-related or, again, songwriting, or you're going to be a performer or producer, that organic feeling thing that happens, like when Michael goes, hee-hee, and like that probably just came out by accident, or maybe he was like, you know what, forget that, I'm about to try something different. But because he went so different, now everyone knows who he is. So what I want to say is, again, those are the things like, what Guru's touching on is that individuality will still come through as well. I am here primarily because I stuck to the plan. I decided to, do the things that I felt were right for me instinctually, and with those instincts, I then pressed forward. So please, just don't be afraid of that either while you're doing what you want to do, okay?
Well, I'm really curious, Marcella. You're an engineer, and we got a lot of people that say they're interested in engineering. Mm-hmm. What's a day in the life for you? What does that mean? We wake up, you have a cup of coffee, and then what?
Definitely have a cup of coffee.
I don't drink coffee. I don't even drink coffee.
Oh, a cup of tea.
Hot tea, yeah. A day in the life for an engineer. So I've basically been working with a producer by the name of Danger for the last 14 years. And basically a day in the life for me is, we would figure out, depending on, what he's working on, what I'm mixing. Right now I'm primarily I'm a mixing engineer. I stopped recording I record every once in a while, but I primarily stopped recording a few years ago. But, it's just about understanding for me, like if I'm going in for a mix job, I'll think about what song I'm mixing, and I have to kind of, for me, it's like figuring out what exactly that song is bringing emotionally wise, like I like to go to sometimes I go to the studio and everybody thinks I'm about to go to the club, and I'm like, no. What it is I like to feel good. I like to be, I like to present myself in a way, not for anyone, because when I'm mixing, nobody's there. It's just me, but I like to feel good when I walk through that door, because a reflection of myself is gonna be a reflection in my mix. And I wanna be able to, I don't wanna be walking in like, house shoes and and sweatpants, and some people can do that and it's fine. But for me, I like to dress up. I like putting makeup on. I like to present myself nicely.
She fancy. She fancy.
Well,
I
okay,
am fancy.
let me see if I can just back up for a quick second. So you mix, when you go to mix or go to your job, you actually go to a location, because there are some people, and technology has made this possible, that do it at their homes, right? I mean, there's, and you could probably get on a yacht or go to a hotel, or there's probably many places you can actually do your work, right?
Oh yeah, well, me particularly, I'm very fancy, like Jim said. I have my own recording studio in Miami, and I am one of those people that Guru was talking about that had a hard time dealing with technology at first, but I'm very much embracing it now. I do still work on analog console. I work on a program called Pro Tools or Logic at times. So for me, I still need the analog console. That's just my way of working. But there is definitely technology out there that people, there's all the EDM DJs. I remember I worked with Tiesto one time on his Kaleidoscope album, and he really, was taking a different approach in, doing that album where he hired me to come in and do the mixes. And when he came to the studio, he had no idea what he was walking into. I was working at a studio in Los Angeles called Chalice Recording, and it was the A room, which has the huge SSL 9000J. And he was like, whoa, what are we doing here? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to explain it to him. And he was like, for years, Tiesto has I don't know how many albums he has out now, but it's like probably in the something teens. He's been mixing in headphones for years. This was the first time that he worked with an outside engineer to actually mix his music, and he had a hard time with it. He really did, because he was kind of like, and he was like, well, I usually just mix in my bedroom, or in a hotel room or on the plane in my headphones. So it is very possible. I just don't have that approach. I don't know if you.
I'm completely in the box at this point.
Okay.
I love, when I say in the box, meaning that I mix in the computer.
Mm-hmm.
I come from that time of when we couldn't. We had to have the big desk and we had to have all that stuff. I love technology. I love to try new things. I'm always trying whatever the new program is. So I've worked in Pro Tools for years. It's sort of an industry standard. Logic came along and I was like, oh, I love this. Ableton came out and now I'm completely in Ableton. I love this program. It moves really fast. So I work at the convenience of whatever my client is doing. And in today's world, a lot of clients want their stuff really fast. So for me, working in the box is a great thing. I love what analog did, but I'm never the person that is just like, oh, you have to use analog just because. It sort of gets me to a point that I wanted to make to the whole audience, is to not let older people put their rules and regulations on you. They try to do that all the time, and I may sometimes even try to do that with my children and say, oh, this is the way you should do it. But your mind should be open enough to say, no, there's a new way for me to do things. There's sort of this thing that we get into with technology as people that build it and we call it lock-in code, right? Where we build something, and then 10 years from now, you guys think that's the only way that it can be done, right? That's not always the way. I'll give a very specific, I like to give these $1 million challenges and solutions. Like, if you can figure this out, you'll go make $1 million, right? When we started interacting with the computer, some very intelligent people came up with this system called MIDI, right? That's the way that most of us interact with our computer. It is the way that we play music. It's musical instrument digital interface. It's a language in terms of playing a keyboard. But it doesn't express strings very well. It doesn't express horns very well. This is why it's very hard to reproduce these sort of things inside of a computer. Why? Because this language was built by keyboard players who only worried about velocity and how hard you're hitting a key. If you guys can figure out how to write a new MIDI, you'll be rich. But everyone just adheres to the way that MIDI is right now. All of us have MIDI in our phones. You all think of MIDI. This is the reason why music starts to sound the same or computerized, is because we're all following this one format. So you guys can think of the new format that will say, hey, I can express horn sounds and wind blowing and how hard we hit strings and things of that nature that aren't expressed right now in the communication that we use called MIDI. So it's sort of a challenge. So my point is to study what we did in the past, see what you like about it, see what you don't like about it, and change it for your world. You know, and that comes with breaking down these mysteries or this reverence that we have for certain people. You guys as engineers should do the history of how things were built. You know, go get the Bell Labs book and read that book. And then it's going to break down to you, okay, well, we all use transistors, but the transistor was really just a lunch meeting between 3 guys that worked at Bell Labs. Who's to say that it has to be that way, right?
Well, I'm curious, so who in the audience, and including the panel, who's ever heard of MIDI? Who's ever worked with MIDI?
Everyone in the room should put their hand up if you've ever listened to music on your phone, you've worked with MIDI.
Oh, yeah. Now, there's this software, this Pro Tools software. I hear this a lot from people in music. Who's ever worked with Pro Tools? Anyone? So I have a question for the panelists. How did you learn that? How did you learn it? Did you teach yourself?
I have a very interesting, I feel like I'm dominating, but I just have this super interesting story of resource. Now, this goes to the point that I was broke when I was young. I had a child at 22 years old. I did not have money. So understanding technology at this point, none of the engineers in New York City wanted to touch Pro Tools. They did not want to touch a computer. They were like, oh, listen to it, doesn't sound as good as tape, throw it away. I, like everyone else that was a struggling musician, all of your friends work at Guitar Center and Sam Ash and all these other places. So I walked into Guitar Center, I took the DVD, I put it in, I took notes in the Guitar Center on how to run Pro Tools, and then I handed them back the DVD. I never bought the DVD, right? This is because I didn't have the money to do so. I taught myself Pro Tools in the store. And then I went around New York City and said, I'm a Pro Tools engineer when no one else wanted to do it. And that's sort of what got me, I think, a lot of gigs earlier than other people because they didn't want to embrace technology.
Wow. Richie, I have to ask you a question.
Yes.
I know, right?
Awesome.
I know. It's true. It's true. If I told you how, I bet everybody on this panel has a story similar to how we couldn't get to something and we made it happen for ourselves in the most unique way. Because that was the only way. But Richie, I want to know about you. I mean, I don't know if anyone saw the Grammys this year. Did anybody watch the Grammys? Yeah. So there was this amazing tribute to David Bowie that was done by a Lady Gaga. And there was a man on this stage who had a lot to do with that. Talk to us a little bit about that, because that's an intersection of technology and performance that you're right in the center of.
Wow. Okay. So that performance was with Intel Technology. I'm sure everyone in this audience has heard of Intel, right? Yes? Okay. And so, of course, it was a tribute to David Bowie, but it was like, how do we make it special? How do we make something new and innovative with technology and with music, and also having a fantastic, amazing, performer like Lady Gaga give her tribute to David Bowie? And you know what? It wasn't easy. Bringing over the tech world and their technology and things that they saw and wanted for us to do on stage with the finesse of an artist and the finesse of a show. And really the struggle was, how do we make them both live at the same time and not let it feel like railroad tracks? How do we make it smooth? And so in that, we first started the performance off with the facial mapping of her face, and even, just getting that right and making sure they looked amazing on camera, and making sure that the sensors were placed right was like, that was not easy, but it worked. It was fantastic. She looked amazing. I remember Intel said, hey, we have these robots that dance. So, initially they had me, I was wired up, I had sensor balls all over me, and they had me just, like, make the robots dance. So that's how we started. And then Gaga was like, what would be amazing is if I had a piano that danced. So what we had to do even in that instance is you had Intel, who just was like gung-ho about their robots dancing, and then we altered that and gave them even a new way to look at their robots and how to make them move with what we wanted to do. So that became her piano. And she also had a ring called Curie that allowed her to bend her image on an LED screen. And so what I want to say about that is that over the span of 15 days and doing dance rehearsals, vocal rehearsals, and then having to also come rehearse with the tech, it was not easy, but it was a beautiful picture and it was a beautiful performance when we got there. We literally felt like we won the Super Bowl, and that 6 minutes felt like a tour. You know what I mean? It wasn't easy, but we made it. And again, listen, anybody can do this, and you can be in the tech world and be in the music and arts world at the same time and let them live cohesively together. It is hard, but you know what? You guys, the new generation, you can make it work.
Well, yes, absolutely. And we were just treated to Zachzilla. Tell us a little bit about that intersection of performance and tech.
So in this conversation about where the future of music is going, I am someone who is on the inside. I work with artists. I listen to their production. I listen to the lyrics that are written. Some artists write their own lyrics, some don't. I study where the industry is as well. I also think that, this business is about playing chess. If everyone's running over that way, then you need to run this way. Because when you run that way, everyone now sees you doing something different. It is a risk, but when it comes to Zachzilla, being that I've been with Lady Gaga, who I have to say is probably one of the most hardest working artists out there that I know, and seeing her conviction to her craft and wanting to break the molds and break the boundaries, I've been with her for 9 years, so I know what hard work takes and where it can get you, and what it's like to be different. And with Zachzilla, that's where I see and where he sees the future of music is going, is that now tech and music are as one, and they live as one, and they perform as one. We want to give the industry something else now, because again, like the boxes that Jim has spoken about, where everything sounds the same, looks the same, feels the same, when you break those molds, you do something different. You do something incredible. So with Zach, it's definitely about marrying technology with music and pushing it to a whole new level, okay?
I'm curious, how many people in the audience have ever coded anything? Has anybody coded? Ooh, this is good. Okay, very good. Now, I'm a writer. I think of myself, I code with words, honestly. But you, Guru, you code, right?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. What's your experience with it?
The hardest part that you guys should understand is that you're making a product for someone else. And that's the real thing that you always have to think about. You have to think about that you're making something for a user. So what's the easiest way? The most intelligent designs are very easy to use. And I always use this example of my watch. Like, most of us in here are not watch makers. We don't know how to put the gears together underneath of this face. But I, as the user of the watch, don't need to know how to do all that. I just need to know where the big hand is and the little hand is. This is a really intelligent piece of technology, right? That we don't know how all of this works underneath, but we know how to tell.
I have no idea how this Apple Watch works.
Right. That's the biggest part of it, is to think about that as you're creating stuff. That, and then also, I love for people your age, this is a completely different time, is the mindset. When I was growing up, we had this thing about us that life started after you graduated from college. Like, that was drilled into me by my mother. Like, oh, you're going to go to high school, you're going to go to college, you're going to graduate, and you're going to get this great job. And the thing that I wish someone would have told me was that my life started as soon as I was born. Right? So you guys can sit and create a program and actually sell that program or put it up in the marketplace at this age now. In fact, this is the best age to do it, because then if it fails, you're like, oh, I can go do something else, and I can go do something else before life kicks in and kids kick in and all this other stuff. So it's like, this is the best time for you to really try your coding and then to give it to people and let them use it. And when you're debugging it, have your friends really, really go hard on your program, and the critiques that you get from your friends are going to be the greatest critiques that you could ever get, because when you put it in the marketplace and it fails, it's different than your friends critiquing it.
I think you probably will have heard this. There's this rule, this arbitrary number. It's 10,000 hours, right? 10,000 hours for you to become a professional, to perfect, to become a master. Well, the hours are starting now. You don't have to wait. I think now is the time. And I know for me, I wrote a play when I was 16. That was a long time ago. But since then, I've been putting in the hours, and you know, those failures, that's just a chance for you to go back to the drawing board and make it that much better. I think we're gonna take questions now. This is exciting.
Yes, sorry to interrupt y'all. This is juicy, thank you. I wanna make sure that you all have a chance to ask your questions, so if you all could come up to the center aisle, to the mic. Don't be shy, don't be scared, we're all family here.
Come on.
Come on
come to the mic,
down.
ask some of your questions.
Da-da-da.
I know Wendy has a few more questions where she can go too, if we don't have any, but definitely take the time.
Oh, we got questions.
Yeah,
Come on,
Yes,
I know we got
questions.
But I
questions.
just wanted to
Look
make
at
that
this.
announcement. We'll go for 15 more minutes.
Yes, come on down.
Yes, brave enough to face the mic.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm from Math and Science College Prep.
Hi,
And
Stephanie.
what inspires you to do your job every day?
Anybody want to jump in?
Well,
Go in.
what inspires me? Well, for me, I mean, I have a passion in my career. I love doing what I do. Also, what inspires me is inspiring you guys. You know, I love that I can be in a position that I'm able to, you know, speak to you guys and teach and, you know, be a mentor. That to me is very inspirational in its own because I'm in a position, you know, I'm not bagging groceries. Like, nobody wants to hear about how bagging groceries is, even though that's what I did when I was 14 for a good year. But, you know, it's a very blessed position to be in. You know, I love, and I'm a new mom. I have a 2-year-old son, and it's very interesting to see him growing up, to see, you know, wanting to be, like, he plays drums. You know, he's playing drums now, and it's just like seeing that, you know, seeing this little human, like, you know, just seeing his mom, and he'll come and sit next to me at the console and start bobbing his head, and he's like, all right, I want to move my faders, and then I'm like, get away. But it's just so beautiful, you know, just to see life that small be inspired off of something that I'm doing, and seeing you guys, where you guys are now about to embark into, you know, adulthood and leave high school and get into college and follow a career path. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
welcome.
Hi, I'm Ariana. I go to Grace Hopper STEM Academy. Who helped you along the way?
This is for me?
All of
Oh,
you guys.
you're looking at me.
I had help from so many different people. I had so many mentors. Chucky Thompson, who was one of the bad boy producers for Puffy, was one of my great mentors. But Tony Maserati, I would say, was probably my direct biggest mentor in terms of engineering. He was the guy that was just like, he didn't say much to me in terms of these are the techniques, but he allowed me in the room to watch him. And that was the biggest thing. So making his coffee and getting whatever he needed was no problem for me, just because he was the one guy that was like, I'm gonna teach you everything that I know, but not say anything, just watch what I do.
I came up working with an engineer by the name of Jimmy Douglas, and he's an amazing engineer that worked with the Timberland Missy Elliott camp for many, many years. Aaliyah, Genuine, Static. I mean, he just did everybody. So I was very lucky to be in the same room with him, and then eventually he was my mentor. And also a really, really close friend of mine, Demo, who, you know, when he was an intern at the same time I was, but he was very ambitious and very smart, and even with Pro Tools, just like Gru, he was one of the first people that knew Pro Tools, and nobody really knew it. And he took it upon himself to, like, hey, I know Pro Tools, so he got every gig early. You know, he transitioned from being an intern to assisting engineering to being in the chair as an engineer because he took the initiative in learning a program that many people did not know at the time, and eventually he passed that down to me, so I was very grateful.
One other thing is, you know what, sometimes it isn't always a who, but as far as my career, it's experience. Being thrown into positions or into jobs that you sometimes have no idea about, and just learning, watching the good things that happen and the bad things that happen. Because sometimes there might not be that person to say, hey, come along, I can help you. Sometimes you have to just like learn and stick to your guts, and then you'll just make it through.
And I want to say one thing too. Family, friends, and there are going to be moments when, you know, you may not have family or friends there, and in those moments when I felt like I needed help, it was prayer. You know, sometimes you have to really pray and you kind of help ask God to keep you focused, to grow, and just try to stay on track with what it is that you believe in your heart.
Yes.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm Jada and I go to Grace Hopper STEM Academy. Did you always want to go into the technology or performing arts?
I did. I did. I don't think I ever really strayed off the path. For me, it really started for me in middle school because I started doing improvisation, and that inspired me, and that led me to acting and writing. And I went to a performing arts high school, and I studied it, and I was just a complete theater nerd from that point, and then went on to college and kept, that's when the technology came into play, because to be a filmmaker, you really do need to understand a lot of technology. And so for me, it started really, I would say maybe 12, 13.
Yeah, I was always interested in tech, but it's interesting that the way I used to look at tech as a background person and also as a DJ. I grew up being a DJ, and DJs back then, I know it's hard for you guys to understand, we were background people, right? So then as the DJ sort of evolved into this foreground person, which I love, then I started to understand my role in performance, which is a completely different thing. So that part of it drew me towards performance, but I was always sort of a background person. This is before like people said my name on records. I was always just in the studio. No one knew who I was, and I loved it that way. So I was always into tech and then sort of fell into performance.
I got into the tech mainly because I was trying to be different from everyone else. And at the time, God, the first time, I want to say it might have been 2008, 2009, where tech was introduced to me, because I had had no idea about it. I just thought it was about strictly performance, how people sang, moved. But then at that point where the artist level, it all kind of came to the same plane, tech was the thing that now made it different for us.
Hey guys, sorry. I don't want to cut too far into lunch, so can we have one panelist answer per question? We have a lot of questions. That'll be great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Ariel Harvey, and I go to Grace Hopper STEM Academy. My question is, what is your goal as an engineer? What is your main point?
What is our goal as engineers? To be, somebody?
The goals of an engineer overall is to solve a problem. As a mix engineer for music, my problem that I'm solving is, how do I present this record? There may be another engineer that solves the problem of, how do I get from this side of the river to that side of the river, and how do I build the best bridge? Another computer engineer may say, what's the best way for me to present this app for people? But it's really problem solving and figuring out what people need. And that's what engineers do. We solve problems.
Okay, Guru.
Thank you.
Right now.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Larissa Lawson, and I attend Grace Hopper STEM Academy. I just wanted to know, when people tried to discourage you, how did you overcome it?
Anyone?
I can go. Do you want to?
You can go, Richie. Go ahead.
Okay, little mama, this is the deal.
Break it down.
Again, you are different for a reason. Whatever your passion is, whatever you believe in, you have to push forward, because people will discourage you. It's just the way the business is. It's the way society is. If there's a belief that you have that someone doesn't believe in it, they're going to tell you more times how much they don't believe in it than they actually will support you. So in that, you have to just hold true and stay firm to where you want to go. You cannot let them take you off the path. I'm not saying you can't be emotional. I'm not saying you can't cry. I've cried over my passion too. But at the end of the day, you've got to stick to the plan. Because if that's what you really want to do, if you're passionate about something, you go.
I know we're only supposed to have one panelist answer, but I have to help you too. That's the time when you find your faith. That's the time when you meditate. That's the time when you take a long walk. That's the time when you take a long breath. That's the time when you pray. That's the time when you quiet all the noise outside and you remind yourself that you are great just the way you are. You wake up from that and you go on. That's what I do.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Reach.
Hi, I'm Nadia. I go to Warren High School. How how old were you when you first made your production of music, and what inspires you to make that music?
I was actually, I would say I was 14 years old. And once again, it started from me playing violin. What made me do it, I think, was me just trying to learn how to play an instrument that I wasn't really used to. And what kept me wanting to go is actually getting better and seeing others who appreciated the music that I was doing. You know, and in the end, like, one of the things that inspires me is being able to say songs I've worked on and having people say, oh yeah, I know that song. Like, that's a really great feeling. So that's something that kind of steams you ahead for me.
Thank you.
I'm Adrian. I go to Columbus High School. I got a question personally for Guru. How did you become involved in the type of music that you make today?
When I was, this is going to be really hard for you to understand, but when I was young, hip hop was not cool. It wasn't even a genre of music yet, right? So it was me trying to sort of put this face on it that you need to accept this music as real music, because I loved all forms of music. I grew up in a very musical family. All of my parents played music, but hip hop wasn't at that. It was looked at as something, as a fad, as this is something that kids in the street are doing. So it was me trying to, I guess, justify why hip hop should be considered a real form of music, and that's sort of how I fell into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan, and I go to Foshe Learning Center. And my question for you guys is, in order for you guys to get to your career so far, what was the biggest challenge that you had to break through to get to your career now?
Convincing my mother and my father that this was an actual job.
Ditto. Ditto.
It didn't exist to them as, and that's another thing I didn't want to add on again, but that's another point. Sometimes you think that the people that are haters are coming from a negative perspective. They're not always negative haters. Sometimes your parents and your family care so much about you that they want you to take the safe route. You know, and they go, okay, well, you could be the doctor and the lawyer, and this is what, you know, your dream may be over here. So sometimes you may have to convince your family members that this is the dream that I want to do. And it may not exist. You guys may be going into careers that just simply didn't exist for your parents because you're in a completely different field than what was around when they were young, if you get what I mean. So sometimes you have to sort of educate them as to what you're doing is a real thing, and then also follow your passion. And regardless of who it is, mother, father, they love you. They want to see the best thing for you, but sometimes you have to convince them that this is the best thing for me.
I just want to add on to that really quick. And the best way to do that is dedication and showing them that this is what you really want to do. Because me moving to LA from San Francisco to go dance back then was like, yeah, right. But I got on that plane and I was out, and I showed them that this is what I wanted to do.
You know, I'm sorry, piling on here. It's a good question. This is how you know it's a good question. Okay, for me, I had to sort of get past my own personality, okay? And that required me listening to my family and people in my life who were sort of flagging something about me. And for my personality is that I'm a person that loves a buffet, right? I like a little taste of this and a little taste of that, and so as a writer, I would write some comedy. I would write, you know, police procedural. I would write, you know, a mystery. I was dabbling in everything. I was jack of everything, master of nothing. And when I finally figured out, oh, wait a minute, that's just my personality. I'm a dabbler. I need to pick one of these things and get really, really good at it. And once I did that, once I started focusing on one type of writing and I got really good at it, that's when people really started to call me in. Oh, she's the one who writes, you know, the police procedural. Bring her in. And that's when my career just completely took off, when I finally focused on one thing and made myself really good at it. Now, mind you, once you do that and once you establish yourself in that realm, whatever it is for you, then you'll have plenty of chances to go dabble here, dabble there. So my personality it's satisfied, but I had to focus, and focus was one of my biggest challenges.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, we got 8 minutes. All right, rapid fire.
Hello. How do you remind yourself where you came from? It's a random question, so.
Love it.
I remind myself where I came from because I never moved out of there. I still live in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm reminded every day why I do what I do, and that's my shortest answer.
Nice. All right, next question. Rapid fire.
Oh, hello. I'm Aaron Perkins from Math and Science College Preparatory. How did your high school experience affect and influence what you do today? Okay.
Anyone?
That's it.
I love that.
High school experience.
I can attest to that little moment. You know what? Me being a band geek and in band and loving band, as I got into this side of choreography and dancing, I never understood how important it was that I learned what I learned. So let me give you an example. Not all, but most choreographers or people that move to music, they just move to music because they can move. I have played music, so I understand why the conductor and or the producer did certain things or put a crescendo or decrescendo or put certain notes there, the feeling that they're expressing. I understand jazz music. I understand that you're supposed to move like, I understand that. But I also know when it's like, then you change it. But I understand it because of music, because of my high schooling and listening to my band instructor teaching me things back then that made so much more sense now later in my career.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next question.
Hi, my name is Kavika Smith. I go to Young Men of Grace. My question is, have you ever had second thoughts about your success? Are you going to be successful? Have you ever had second thoughts about it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I've definitely had moments where I'm like, is this gonna happen? Is this gonna happen? Like, when am I gonna be, on this Grammy stage and all? Absolutely. I think that comes with it. And success is not overnight. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication, and sometimes you tend to look at the clock and be like, well, any day now is it gonna happen? But I mean, as long as you put yourself first and dedicate yourself and work really hard, success it's coming. It will come.
All right, next question.
Hi, I'm Joanna Tamada. What if you speak many different languages and you want to be an engineer to help not just the U.S. but other countries?
That's such a great thing. That's a positive thing. I fly around the world DJing and doing different sessions, and the fact that you have the ability to speak different languages is nothing more than a plus, because it opens up whole different worlds to you, and then you can sort of combine those two. So it's a really good plus to have. And then what's your background, if you don't mind me asking?
I speak Spanish and Japanese.
Spanish and Japanese. So you have so many worlds that are open to you, because you have like all of South America that you could go to and speak the language, and then you have all of Asia that you could go to, and there's these huge industries that exist that we don't always think of. So it's a great thing for you to be able to have that bonus of speaking different languages. Yeah.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm from Warren High School. Could you elaborate upon your education within engineering or STEM overall for me? I don't know, this specifically goes to you too.
What kind of education I did? I went to a school in Orlando called Full Sail. It's a entertainment industry school that provides programs in audio engineering, film and video, game design, digital media, and much more at this point. So I went 13 years ago, 14 years ago. It was a one-year accelerated program, so I got a 2-year degree in 1 year, and it was a school that I went to that basically I was in class and in labs 12, 16 hours a day. The whole purpose of that was to prepare me for the real world, and it was great preparation, because when you do start working in this industry, there's times when I didn't go home for weeks. I never saw my own bed, I never saw my family, I missed holidays, so that was the education I took.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Mandy. Sometimes during the problem-solving process, you hit a wall. What have you used as motivation to break through that wall?
I have this thing, I went to Howard University, and we have this thing that there's no wall that I can't break through. So I am a person that relies on community, and I was just trained that way. So if I can't get through the wall, I call friends, and then 2 of my friends are gonna go this way and that way to figure out how long the wall is. And I'm sending one of my friends to go get dynamite, and I'm sending one of my friends to go get a shovel to dig underneath the wall, and then I may need like 10 of my friends to get on each other's backs to get over the wall. But you get my point, right? I have the mentality that there's no way I'm not getting through this wall. So sometimes you take a break, right? And you have to think about it from another perspective. Sometimes you have to plug at it really hard and say, okay, I'm just gonna go at this problem by itself. That's what focus is. But some way I'm gonna figure out how to get through this wall, but don't overlook the power of stepping back and taking a break from whatever it is you do. Go have fun and then come back. And I don't care what that is, if you're programming whatever the latest app is, or you're trying to mix a song, or you're trying to come up with dance moves. Life is what inspires you. So when you go live life and take this little break, something's gonna happen because subconsciously you're still thinking about that thing.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think we're getting really close to the end here, and we got to wrap it up. So we're going to take one more question, but I want you to know, everyone that's still in line, that we will be around. You know, there's an activity that's going to be going on after lunch. Many of us are staying, and you'll be able to ask your question to us directly. But for this session right now, we got one final question. No pressure.
No pressure, no pressure. Okay, got it. Hi, my name is Andrew Lopez. I'm from the Fauché Learning Center Tech Academy. And first of all, thank you guys for being here. I've learned so much already. For me, I know that I want to write music for film and TV, sort of like the classical composition stuff. That's where I want to go into. So I'm wondering, for one of you guys, whoever, like, if you're writing or if you're creating like dance steps, or if you're writing something totally new, how do you stay true to the story that the film or the TV show is trying to convey?
The character, right? It's the character that you create will take you to where you need to go in the story. And it's important when you're creating your characters that you listen to them, that you have arguments with them, that you let them win arguments, right? Bring them to life. And then as you're creating the story, when you have so many different avenues you can go down with a story, the character will start to fill in for you because you're trying to be true to this beautiful creation that you've made. Creating characters is a scary, wonderful thing. It's what inspires me to do what I do. There's books on writing, and they say it's playing God. And with that comes a lot of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
But it's play. And so you just really stay dedicated to the characters and let them go. And that's very difficult the more successful you become, right? So when you're first writing a play that 2 of your friends in here are gonna be in, it's easy to stay true, right? You don't have 100 people telling you how to change them. But when you start writing, say, a broadcast television show, you now have a whole committee of people who are telling you what they want that character to be, and they don't necessarily, or they're not doing it because they want to be true to the character. Maybe they're doing it because they've just sold an ad to Pepsi. Maybe they're doing it because, you start to have all these different things that start to affect the creativity. So it's really important that you know your character and that you stay true to your character. And I'm just warning you, it gets harder as you go. But the more use you get to, the more it becomes second nature for you, the easier it becomes.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
The other part to that is know your craft too. And I'm trying to make this as quick as possible. You as a musician, if you're wanting to do music for movie and television, you're gonna have to know your craft, right? So you're gonna have to know that those major chords are gonna be happy, those minor chords are gonna be sad, what your diminished sounds like, what your augmented sounds like, so that quickly when someone's saying some sort of emotion that they're trying to convey, you know how to translate that into music. And then also separate the stereotypes that come about. Like there's a difference between tempo and energy, and you'll start to figure that out. You can be very high tempo and be low energy, and we don't usually associate it that way. And you can be very low tempo and be high energy. So it's about filling in those gaps of supplementing what the director or the writer is trying to say musically. You are there to help them tell a story, which is different than you expressing yourself for 3 minutes in your own little world of I'm writing my hit song. Writing for television and film is very, very challenging because it's not just this free expression of music. You have to fill in what she wrote. That's his job.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Anila Flores, and I attend Grace Hopper STEM Academy. What made you guys choose a job as an engineer?
Say that again?
What made you guys choose a job as an engineer?
Okay, and just in case you're all wondering, we've been told we can continue. Everyone that's in line now, you're gonna get to ask your question. So,
Really fast.
really fast, but really
Okay,
fast.
well, passion. I just love music, so I wanted to be a part of the creative process. I did not play instruments. I did, like I said earlier, I didn't sing, but I wanted to be a part of the creative process. So I chose the path of engineering so I could actually be in the studio.
I loved taking things apart, putting them together, and I went to a job fair. Well, you know, back in the day, you used to go to work with your parents, like bring your kid. And my dad was an accountant, and he worked in a cubicle, and I was like, I absolutely don't want to do this for my job. I want to do something really fun. So I didn't want to work in a cubicle and wear a suit every day. That was really it.
And I fell into engineering because I had an engineer and they left. And so I was just forced to do it on my own. And it was hard, but it was moments I actually had to call Marcella on the phone, and she got me through it. So.
The wall.
Cool.
Next question.
Hello, my name is Erin, and I go to Grace Hopper STEM Academy. And my question was, like, when you were younger, did your parents, like, force you to do coding, like, either engineering, like, either you do this or you're not doing anything at all?
Not mine.
When I was young, coding, kind of the way that you guys do it, didn't exist. I'm 42 years old, so there weren't that many programs out where you could learn coding. What my father did force me to do back then was there was this starter kit at Radio Shack of how to build circuits. So my father went and bought this starter kit, and I was forced to use this starter kit so that I learned how to solder and that I learned everything about putting together something physical. So the same way that you're being forced to code, I was forced to work on this. But you're gonna love that when you get older. You're gonna love the fact that somebody forced you to do that. You're gonna love it.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Joshua Smith from Math and Science College Prep, and I was wondering, anytime you're working with an artist that you don't really agree with, how would you get with them? Like, how do you work with them, basically?
It's egos. There's egos everywhere you go. And it's been plenty of times that I wanted to jump through the booth and fight people. I wanted to run out of the studio. I would tell you a few of the artists, but I ain't gonna go that far. But yeah, you really, sometimes you just have to kind of, center yourself and, and just realize, like what that guru said, you're there to do a job. And, it's one of the things, if, you can fly off the handle and lose that job if you don't, pay attention to how to, use your craft or whatever. So it does come down to a lot of psychology and just kind of calming down and being like, hey, that's how you want to do it, fine.
Thank you.
Okay, next person.
Right.
Next question.
Hello, Lawrence Williams. I was wondering that every artist has their own process of creating. What's yours?
For me, I like my process when I'm in mixing mode. I like the room to be warm. I like a lot of candles. I like my room to be feeling really sexy and very feminine. And I like the candles and there's a glass of wine. There we go.
Wow, that's a pretty good job. Next question.
Hi, I'm Talia, and I'm from Warren, and I've always been told it's all about who you know, not what you know, and I was just wondering if that got any of you, to where you are today.
Oh yeah, who you know will get you the opportunity, right? So networking is a very big part of this. What you know will keep you there.
What I'm saying is it's, a very cliche for people to say, put yourself, be outgoing, but I'm not the most outgoing, so I was wondering, how'd you guys accomplish that?
So that's part of what you have to work on in terms of there can always be a Wozniak, right, that has this great idea. Apple would not be Apple without Steve Jobs, who knew how to sell what he was making. Plenty of times engineers can make things, but if you're not aware of the marketplace of getting that thing out, I'm not saying that you have to now go to school for marketing, right? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you have to be aware of it. So you have to either have someone with you that is really good at that, but in your own personal, you have to be enough of an outgoing person to sell yourself when you're going to get a job. So now an employer is not only looking at what you're bringing to the table, they're looking at you as a person. So we didn't have to go through this, but every employer that you go to, they're going to look at your social media, they're going to look at your imprint online. And they're going to value you as a person when you have the interview, when you go apply for this job or whatever you're doing. So there's somewhat, you do need to be a little bit more outgoing, and that's things that you need to work on. Learn to get up and give speeches in front of complete strangers, right? But that part of it is something that you will get better at as you get more confident and you grow up. But it is necessary to a certain degree in terms of how you sell yourself. And I don't mean selling out. I mean presenting yourself to potential jobs.
Thank you.
Come see me after.
Yeah.
I have some advice for you, but I'll tell you after.
And by the way, you stood up, you got in line,
There
you
you go.
waited, you got to the mic, and you asked a question. You're on your way.
Hi, I'm Kayla Terrazas. I attend Warren High School. I love music, mostly singing and performing. How can I combine my dream and a college education?
Ooh. You guys have colleges online now, don't you? Well, see, we didn't have that when I was growing up. That right there is a way to still do it. In most cases, not all, but most, I hate to say you have to pick, but you have to pick. If you're gonna tell yourself I'm not gonna have a plan B, then and you really believe that you can sing and want to perform, then work as hard as you can to make plan A happen. If you keep plan B right here, in most, not all, plan A is not gonna work. Because you're looking at plan B like, hey, just in case it doesn't work, I got you. That means you're not gonna give 110% to plan A. So if you know that in deep down, whether you can naturally sing, whether you have to get a vocal coach, whether you love recording, do you love the process of it? If you love it all and know that you want to be on that stage, whether it's a Grammys, whether it's your own video, whether it's your own tour, if you love it and know that's where you want to be, then you can get there. But you got to kind of let plan B be plan B, because school will always be there. School will never go away.
Okay.
I know we're only supposed to give one answer. This is so important. This is so important. I have a different perspective. I went to school when I was going to Howard University, and I was also working on music at the exact same time. So I was going to class, and I would DJ parties, and I would go to class, and then I would work on music production. It just so happens that this guy named Puffy, who was also a student there, starts this thing called Bad Boy, and we take off, right? But at the same time, I felt as though there's no challenge that I can't meet. So to me, school was simple. It was like regurgitation. It was like you give me the information and then you're going to ask me the same information 6 months later. I can always do that for you. Learning how to think happens in university. The first place where you get to stand up and perform in front of people that you know happens in university. That's how you combine the two. You utilize that time to work on your craft. And if you really feel as though you're intelligent enough, you can do both things. I take the thing where there's nothing in the world that I can't do. And I'm snobbish that way, I'm sorry.
Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Elise and I go to Lakewood High School. I kind of have a hard question for you guys, so I'm sorry. The deaf and hard of hearing community love music and entertainment. What are your thoughts about captioning movies in a movie theater? Because the deaf community wants to watch movies that come out at midnight and they want to be able to experience what hearing people do when it comes to entertainment.
Well, am I dominating, guys? I hate that, but I love that. I love the fact that we have to think about that and we have to figure out ways of communicating and incorporating certain people that we don't think about that all the time when we're dealing with auditory things. So there's a lot that we need to do in terms of research and a lot that we need to do to take it further for our deaf community, you know, and there's ways of embedding or encoding things. But again, you just described a problem that the room could help figure out. As engineers, again, we take your problem and we figure out the best way to present that to the deaf community.
And crazy enough, I just remember seeing a new thing that Timberland had been working on, something called Sub Pack, which is like, it's an idea where it's like a backpack and the music kind of, I guess, vibrates through it. So it's another way that you can actually feel the music throughout the backpack. You know, it's about being smart and thinking ahead, like gurus did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know, only one answer, but this is a good question. Everything that they said, and then also for those of you who are thinking about careers, whether it be in film, television, new media, whatever, when you're thinking about women and people of color, also include people that have disabilities, people that are challenged, because they are the most minority of the minorities. They are not represented on screen. They are not, we don't see them interacting in the same way that we see other types of people repeatedly on screen. So please, as you're creating those characters, think about the people that you know who are not represented and figure out a way to bring them to life on screen and bring them to life with their conflicts and their challenges. And want to go see a movie. How simple is that? And why is that a challenge? There's a story in that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Wendy from Warren High School.
I'm Wendy too. Hey.
My question is, was this the future you saw that you expected when you were younger? And how do you think we can change our future with music and technology?
Go ahead, Jim.
Could you repeat the first?
She said, is this the future that you envisioned when you were young? And how can we change that future with music and technology?
Oh, was this the future that I'm in? Actually, no. When I first started off, I had no idea that one day I would be working on a television, one of the #1 television shows in the country. I never thought that. You know, I was actually where you guys were. I remember at assembly years ago, and I remember hearing somebody on stage say, "You can do it," and I was like, "Okay, whatever." So just to be completely honest, like, you know, you never know where your life is going to take. You just have to stick with it and follow your dreams.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you.
Hello, hello. That's amazing. Can we give a round of applause for all the questions? That was phenomenal. Yeah. Thank you. Great questions. You're all so brave. You all, very powerful. Thank you so much for being here. Can we give another round of applause for our panelists?
Thank you guys for having us.
Awesome. Okay, we are going to say goodbye on live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And now with that, I'll let you all exit. Exit the stage, please. All right, are you all hungry? All right, unfortunately, you now only have 30 minutes for lunch.